My name is Vex, and I have been part of the Galactic Council's Diplomatic Security Division for 17 cycles. 17 cycles of monitoring trade disputes, refereeing territorial squabbles, and watching politicians posture like mating birds. I thought I had seen everything the galaxy could throw at me. Then the humans sent Marcus Kane. The day he arrived, I was standing in the reception hall of the Council Station, a massive structure that floated in neutral space between 12 different star systems. The hall itself was designed to intimidate. Columns of pure energy rose from floor to ceiling, casting everything in a purple glow that made everyone look vaguely poisonous. The architects thought it conveyed power and authority. Mostly, it just gave me headaches. Beside me stood Trill, my partner in this diplomatic circus. Trill was a Mentorian, which meant she had 4 arms, silver skin, and the annoying ability to read micro-expressions across 17 different species. She was good at her job. Too good, sometimes. "The human delegation is late," she said, tapping 2 of her fingers together in that nervous way she had. "Already 7 minutes late." "Maybe they got lost," I suggested. "Humans are new to this whole galactic community thing." "What has it been 3 years since first contact?" 3 years, 4 months, 16 days? Trill always knew the exact numbers. "They have been quiet." That was an understatement. After humanity made contact with the wider galaxy, everyone expected them to follow the usual pattern. Show up, look around with wide eyes, sign some treaties, maybe start a small colony or 2. Every species did it that way. Every single one. Except humans seemed content to just observe. They sent diplomats to council meetings, sure. But those diplomats mostly sat in the back, took notes, and smiled politely when anyone asked them questions. They never made demands, never threw their weight around, never showed any teeth, which made everyone nervous because species that acted like prey usually were prey. And prey did not survive first contact with a dozen different predator civilizations unless something else was going on. "Maybe they are just peaceful," I said to Trill, though I did not believe it myself. She gave me a look that said she did not believe it either. The main doors opened with a hiss, and I straightened my posture. Time to meet the new human representative. Marcus Kane walked through those doors like he owned them. No, scratch that. He walked through those doors like he had built them, sold them, and was generously allowing us to use them for a small fee. The confidence was not loud or aggressive. It was simply there, like gravity or bad lighting. He was tall by human standards, maybe 6.5 feet, with dark hair cut military short and eyes that seemed to calculate everything they saw. He wore a simple gray suit. No decorations, no medals, no tribal markings or status symbols. Just gray fabric that fit him perfectly. Somehow, that made him more intimidating than if he had shown up covered in weapons. Behind him walked 2 other humans. A woman with red hair pulled into a severe bun, carrying a data tablet. A younger man with nervous eyes and the kind of face that suggested he spent most of his time behind a desk. Standard diplomatic support staff. Kane stopped in front of us and extended his hand, palm open, the human greeting gesture. "Vex, I presume?" His voice was smooth, professional, with an accent I could not place. "And you must be Trill. Pleasure to meet you both." I shook his hand, careful not to grip too hard. Humans were fragile compared to Kethril like me. Our bones were denser, our muscles stronger. I had learned early in my career that accidentally crushing someone's hand was a terrible way to start diplomatic relations. Except Kane's grip was firm, very firm. Not painful, but definitely not fragile. His hand felt like it was made of stone wrapped in skin. "Welcome to Council Station," I said, pulling my hand back and trying not to show my surprise. "I am Vex, head of security for the diplomatic wing. This is my partner Trill. We will be your primary contacts during your stay." "Excellent," Kane smiled, and it was the kind of smile that made you wonder if he was genuinely pleased or just being polite. "I am Marcus Kane, humanity's new representative to the Council. This is my aide, Rebecca Holt." And my attache, David Parks. The woman, Holt, nodded curtly. The young man, Parks, looked like he wanted to hide behind Kane and possibly never come out. Your quarters have been prepared on level 7, Trill said, gesturing toward the elevator banks. We thought you might want to rest before tomorrow's opening session. That is thoughtful, Kane said, but unnecessary. I would like to tour the facility, if possible, to get a sense of the layout, meet some of the other delegations. I exchanged a glance with Trill. Most new representatives spent their first day sleeping off the effects of faster-than-light travel and trying not to vomit from the spatial displacement. Kane looked like he had just stepped out of his house for a morning walk. Of course, I said, we can arrange that. Though I should warn you, Ambassador Mordax of the Vorn Collective specifically requested a meeting with you. He is persistent. Kane's smile widened slightly. Ah, yes, the Vorn. They control the Kepler sector trade routes, correct? Major economic power, military force of approximately 400 capital ships, cultural values centered around strength and dominance. He rattled off the information like he was reading from a menu. You have done your homework, Trill said, impressed despite herself. I like to know who I am dealing with, Kane replied smoothly. When can I meet with Ambassador Mordax? This evening, if you wish, I said. Though I should mention that Mordax has a reputation for being difficult, especially with new species. He will likely try to establish dominance early and test your boundaries. It is nothing personal. It's just Vorn nature. Sounds fun, Kane said, and for a moment I could not tell if he was being sarcastic or genuine. We began the tour. I showed Kane the council chambers, the meditation gardens, the various embassy wings. He asked intelligent questions, made appropriate observations, and generally behaved exactly like a competent diplomat should behave. Professional. Courteous. Boring. Except there were little things that did not add up. The way his eyes constantly scanned every room we entered, cataloging exits and potential threats. The way he positioned himself so he always had a clear line of sight to the doors. And the way he moved, which was not the slightly clumsy gait most diplomats had, but rather something more controlled, more deliberate. And then there was the incident in the garden. We were walking through the Zen section, where various species went to decompress from the endless negotiations. Crystalline water features, bioluminescent plants, floating meditation platforms, very peaceful, very calming, very expensive to maintain. A Vorn warrior, one of Mordax's bodyguards, was practicing combat forms near one of the platforms. Vorn were big, even by Kethril standards, 8 feet tall, covered in armored scales with 4 arms that ended in claws that could shred steel. This particular Vorn was going through a series of strikes and blocks that would have killed anything foolish enough to get in the way. Parks, the nervous Atag, was not paying attention. He stepped too close, head down, studying his datapad. The Vorn's backswing came around fast, claws extended. It would have taken Parks' head clean off. Kane moved. I did not see him move. One moment he was standing next to me, hands in his pockets, looking relaxed. The next moment he was between the Vorn and Parks, had caught the alien's wrist mid-swing and was holding it completely still. The Vorn, surprised, tried to pull back. Could not. Tried to push forward. Could not. Kane just stood there, holding an 8-foot-tall armored warrior's arm like it was a tree branch. Careful, Kane said mildly. You almost hit my friend. The Vorn stared at him. I stared at him. Trill stared at him. Parks, oblivious, looked up from his datapad and said, What? Did I miss something? Kane released the Vorn's arm and smiled pleasantly. No harm done. Beautiful form, by the way. Very fluid. Do you study the Krael method or the traditional Vorn martial art? The Vorn, still processing what had just happened, mumbled something about traditional forms and retreated quickly. Kane turned back to us like nothing had happened. Shall we continue the tour? I looked at Trill. She looked at me. We both looked at Kane, who was already walking ahead, hands back in his pockets. That was, Trill started. Interesting, I finished. Parks had no idea how close he had come to decapitation. Bolt, the aide, just made a note on her datapad and followed Kane without comment. We finished the tour without further incident, though I was now watching Kane much more carefully. So was Trill. The man moved like a diplomat, talked like a diplomat, and smiled like a diplomat. But that moment in the garden, that was not diplomatic. That was something else entirely. That evening we escorted Kane to his meeting with Ambassador Mordax. The Vorn embassy was decorated in their traditional style, which meant lots of black metal, angular furniture that looked like medieval torture devices, and dim red lighting that made everything feel vaguely threatening. Mordax himself was waiting in the main reception chamber. He was larger than most Vorn, with silver scales instead of the usual bronze, and a scar that ran from his left eye down to his jaw. He had earned that scar in the expansion wars, where the Vorn had conquered 6 different systems in brutal campaigns that left billions dead. He was not someone you wanted to have as an enemy. The human, Mordax said as we entered, not bothering with pleasantries. Come, sit. Kane sat in the chair across from Mordax without hesitation. I stayed by the door with Trill, as was protocol. Bolt and Parks remained in the outer chamber. Mordax studied Kane for a long moment, then leaned forward. I have been waiting to meet your kind. The mysterious humans. The species that watches but does not act, that listens but does not speak. Tell me, human, are you prey or predator? It was a typical Mordax opening. Aggressive, probing, designed to put the other party on the defensive. Kane smiled. That is an interesting question, Ambassador. Do you mind if I ask you one in return? Mordax's eyes narrowed. Ask, how many wars have the Vorn won? 17 major campaigns, Mordax said proudly. 6 systems conquered. 12 species brought under Vorn control. Impressive, Kane said, and he sounded like he meant it. And how many wars have you lost? When the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Asking a Vorn about military defeats was like asking them to recite a list of personal humiliations. It simply was not done. Mordax's claws extended slightly. We do not lose, human. Everyone loses eventually, Kane said calmly. It is just a matter of when, and to whom. Is that a threat? Mordax's voice was low, dangerous. No, Kane replied. Just an observation. You asked if humans are prey or predator. The truth is, Ambassador, we are neither. We are survivors. We have been surviving for a very, very long time. Mordax studied him. You speak boldly for a species so new to the stars, and your technology is inferior. Your military is small. Your territory is limited to one system. What makes you think you have anything we should respect? Kane leaned back in his chair, completely relaxed. Ambassador, humanity has been fighting wars since before we discovered fire. We fought with stones and clubs, then spears, then swords and arrows, then guns and bombs, then nuclear weapons. We have fought wars over land, water, religion, ideology, and sometimes just because we did not like each other's faces. He paused, letting that sink in. In all of human history, we have had exactly 247 years of complete global peace. Total. In 10,000 years of recorded civilization. We are not good at peace, Ambassador. We are excellent at war. I felt the fur on the back of my neck stand up. The way Kane said it, so matter-of-fact, so casual, was more frightening than if he had been shouting threats. Mordax seemed to feel it too. His posture shifted slightly, became more guarded. And yet, Mordax said slowly, you sit here, unarmed, in my embassy, talking about war like it is ancient history. Oh, I am not unarmed, Kane said pleasantly. Everyone in the room tensed. I moved my hand closer to my weapon. Trill did the same. Kane noticed. He held up his hands, showing they were empty. I apologize. Poor choice of words. What I meant is that I, personally, am never truly unarmed. None of us are. Humans, I mean. Explain, Mordax demanded. Kane tapped his temple. This is my weapon, Ambassador. Every human's weapon. We adapt, we learn, we improvise. You know what the most dangerous thing about humanity is? It is not our technology or our numbers or our resources. It is that we never stop figuring out new ways to survive. He stood up, and I tensed, ready to intervene if necessary. But Kane just buttoned his jacket and smiled. Thank you for the meeting, Ambassador. I look forward to working with you on the Council. I think we will find common ground. Mordax watched him go, saying nothing. Once we were outside the embassy, back in the neutral corridor, I finally spoke. That was either the bravest thing I have ever seen or the stupidest. Possibly both, Kane agreed cheerfully. How did I do? Was I diplomatic enough? You nearly started an interstellar incident, Trill said. Nearly does not count, Kane replied. Besides, Mordax respects strength. He does not respect groveling. I gave him what he understands. You also gave him a warning, I said. Kane looked at me, and for just a moment the pleasant diplomatic mask slipped. His eyes were cold, calculating, absolutely certain. Yes, he said, I did. Over the next few days I watched Kane work the Council. He attended sessions, made proposals, negotiated compromises. He was good at it. Better than good. He had this way of making everyone think they were getting what they wanted while he quietly steered outcomes in humanity's favor. But I kept noticing things, little things. The way he always knew who was in a room before looking. The way he could estimate distances and angles with uncanny accuracy. The way he never forgot a name, a face, or a piece of information. These were not normal diplomatic skills. Then there was the incident in the commissary. The Scoran merchant, drunk on fermented kelp juice, decided he did not like humans. Started making loud comments about how humanity should go back to their little corner of space and stop pretending to be important. Got in Kane's face, all four arms waving, spitting insults in broken galactic common. Kane just stood there, holding his food tray, smiling politely. Is there a problem? He asked mildly. The Scoran shoved him. Not hard, but enough to make a point. And Kane set down his tray carefully. Very carefully, like he was defusing a bomb. Sir, he said, voice still pleasant, I am going to give you one chance to walk away. Take it. The Scoran laughed and reached out to shove him again. What happened next took approximately 2 seconds. Kane caught the Scoran's arm, twisted it behind his back, swept his legs, and had him face down on the floor before the alien even realized he had been touched. Then Kane calmly picked up his tray and continued to his table. The entire commissary was silent. Anyone else have concerns about humanity? Kane asked the room. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Kane sat down and started eating his lunch. I walked over and sat across from him. You know, most diplomats would have called security and filed a complaint. Kane looked up from his food. I did call security. You are security. I figured you would show up eventually. What if I had not? He shrugged. Then I would have handled it myself, which I did. Kane, I said carefully, what exactly were you before you became a diplomat? He took a bite of something that looked like mashed purple vegetables, chewed thoughtfully, swallowed. I was lots of things, Vex. Why do you ask? Because you move like a soldier, fight like a soldier, think like a soldier. But your credentials say you spent the last 10 years in diplomatic service. Credentials do not tell the whole story, Kane said. They never do. What is the whole story? He smiled, that enigmatic smile. Maybe I will tell you someday. When we know each other better. 2 weeks after Kane arrived, everything went sideways. The council was in the middle of a heated debate about mining rights in the Tertian system when the alarm started. Not the regular security alarms, the emergency ones. The ones that meant someone was attacking the station. Pirates, it turned out. A fleet of them, heavily armed, jumping out of faster-than-light right on top of us. 16 ships, all bristling with weapons, demanding we surrender or be destroyed. They had somehow gotten past the defense perimeter, which should have been impossible. Someone on the inside had helped them. A traitor. But we did not have time to worry about that now. All delegates to the secure bunker, Trill ordered over the station-wide comm. Security teams to defensive positions. This is not a drill. Delegates started running. Some ran toward the bunker. Some ran toward their ships. Some just froze in panic. Kane did not run anywhere. He walked calmly to the security station where I was coordinating the defense and asked, "What do you need?" "I need you to get to the bunker with the other diplomats," I said tersely, watching multiple screens showing pirate ships deploying boarding pods. We had maybe 10 minutes before they breached the hull. "Counteroffer," Kane said. "Tell me where your armory is, and I will help you hold the station." I stared at him. "You are a diplomat." "Yes," he agreed. "And I am also qualified to help, trust me." Beer-ed. Something in his eyes made me make a decision I probably should not have made. I pointed to the corridor on the left. Sublevel 3, Section Gamma. Access code 774 Alpha 9. Take whatever you need. He was gone before I finished the sentence. The pirates breached the hull in 4 locations. They came in hard and fast, professional boarding teams with military-grade equipment. This was not some random raid. This was planned, coordinated, and terrifyingly effective. My security teams engaged them in the corridors. We had good people, well-trained, well-armed. But the pirates had numbers and surprise on their side. We were losing ground, falling back, trying to keep them away from the council chambers where the delegates were holed up. Then Kane entered the fight. I heard him before I saw him on the security feeds. Gunfire, lots of it, echoing through the corridors. Then silence. Then more gunfire. Then silence again. I pulled up the camera feed for Corridor 12, where a pirate team had been advancing. The pirates were down. All of them, 6 trained fighters lying unconscious or dead, their weapons scattered. And there was Kane, checking the corridor ahead, moving like liquid death in a gray suit. He had taken an assault rifle from the armory, plus what looked like about 40 pounds of ammunition and tactical gear. He looked comfortable. No, more than comfortable. He looked like he was born to do this. His voice came over the comm, calm and steady. "How many boarding teams did they send?" 4, I responded, still trying to process what I was seeing. 2 down, he said. "Where are the other 2? I checked the feeds. 1 in Corridor 7 moving toward the council chambers. Another in the docking bay, trying to sabotage ships. "Send your people to protect the council chambers," Kane said. "I will handle the docking bay." "Kane, that is an 8-man team with heavy weapons." "I know," he said. "I counted them. Be there in 3 minutes." 3 minutes later, the security feed from the docking bay went offline. Then came back on. The pirates were down. All 8 of them. Kane was standing in the middle of the bay, reloading his weapon, not even breathing hard. The last boarding team, hearing what happened to their friends, tried to retreat to their ship. Kane cut them off, herded them into a dead-end corridor, and gave them exactly 1 chance to surrender. They took it. Within 20 minutes of the attack starting, it was over. The pirate ships, realizing their boarding teams had failed, tried to escape. Our defense fleet, having finally organized a response, destroyed 2 of them and captured the rest. Total casualties on the station: 3 security personnel wounded, none seriously. Total pirate casualties: 32 captured, 18 dead, all killed by Marcus Kane. I found him in the armory returning the weapons he had borrowed, cleaning them meticulously. "You are not a diplomat," I said. He looked up. "Yes, I am. You know what I mean?" He set down the rifle he was cleaning and met my eyes. "Vex, I have been a lot of things in my life. Soldier, operative, instructor, and yes, diplomat. Humans do not like to specialize. We prefer to be multifaceted. Why did they send you? I asked. Really? Kane smiled, and this time it was not the pleasant diplomatic smile. It was something harder, something honest. Because the Council needed to understand something about humanity. We are not prey. We are not predators. We are survivors. And when you back survivors into a corner, when you threaten what they protect, you get to see what 10,000 years of warfare has taught us. He finished cleaning the weapon and stood up. The pirates did not attack randomly, Vex. Someone hired them. Someone on the Council. Someone who wanted to test the station's defenses. To test me. Did you figure out who yet? I had not. But I was starting to, and the implications were terrifying. Kane walked past me toward the door, then paused. The Council thinks they are safe because they have rules and traditions and diplomatic immunity. They think violence is something that happens far away, in border skirmishes and territorial disputes. They have forgotten what real war looks like. He turned back to look at me. Humans have not forgotten. We cannot afford to. So yes, I am a diplomat. I am here to negotiate, to build relationships, to find peaceful solutions. But I am also here to remind the Council of something very important. What is that? I asked. His smile was cold. That if peace fails, humanity knows how to fight. And we are very, very good at it. He left the armory, leaving me standing there, finally understanding what humanity had sent us. It's not just a diplomat. A message. A warning wrapped in a smile and a gray suit. A weapon they had not seen coming. And I had a feeling this was only the beginning. The investigation into the pirate attack took 3 days. 3 very long, very tense days where everyone on the station looked at each other with suspicion and nobody slept particularly well, including me. I spent most of that time reviewing security footage, interrogating captured pirates, and trying to figure out who on the Council wanted us dead, or at least wanted to send a message. A very violent, explosive message involving breaching charges and assault rifles. Kane spent those 3 days doing diplomat things, attending meetings, discussing trade agreements, smiling at people who might have tried to kill him 72 hours earlier. He acted like nothing had happened. Like he had not personally eliminated 26 armed combatants in under 30 minutes. It was unsettling. On the 4th day, I got a break in the case. One of the pirates, a Chronicles mercenary with more debts than sense, decided he preferred prison to whatever his employers would do to him for failing. He gave us a name, Ambassador Thex of the Helian Syndicate. I should have seen it coming. The Helians controlled most of the smuggling routes in the outer sectors. They made billions off illegal trade, extortion, and various other activities that sounded criminal no matter how you phrased them. They had been arguing for months that humanity should not be allowed on the Council. Too unpredictable, they said. Too aggressive. Too dangerous. Turns out they were right about the dangerous part, just not in the way they thought. Thix had hired the pirates to attack the station during a council session, planning to blame humanity for inadequate security or some nonsense like that. Discredit them. Get them kicked off the council before they could establish themselves. Standard political backstabbing, except with actual stabbing. He had not counted on Kane being, well, Kane. I brought the evidence to council security, who brought it to the High Arbiter, who convened an emergency tribunal. Very official. Very serious. Lots of stern faces and formal language. The Helians were going to be sanctioned, Thex would be expelled from the council, and everyone would go back to pretending we were all civilized. Except Kane had other ideas. He found me in my office that evening. I was working through the mountain of paperwork that comes with surviving a terrorist attack, drinking something that barely qualified as coffee, and wondering if I should just retire and become a hermit somewhere quiet. Vex, Kane said, walking in without knocking, we need to talk. I looked up from my datapad. About what? About finishing this. It is finished, I said. Vex is being expelled. The Helians are facing sanctions. Justice has been served. Kane sat down across from me. That is not justice. That is bureaucracy. Thex tried to kill dozens of people, succeeded in killing 18 of his own hired mercenaries, and his punishment is what? He has to go home? The Helians pay a fine they can afford in their sleep? That is how the council works, I said. We do not execute people for crimes. We do not start wars over political disputes. We handle things peacefully. Peacefully, Kane repeated, like he was tasting the word. Tell me, Vex, how many attacks like this have happened before? I paused. This is the first successful boarding of the station. Not what I asked. How many attempts? I did not want to answer. But his eyes pinned me down, patient and relentless. 17, I admitted. Over the past decade, various groups, various methods. Most stopped before they got close. A few made it to the outer defenses. And what happened to the people behind those attacks? They were sanctioned. Expelled. Fined. Did any of them try again? Damn him. 6 of them. Different methods, different timing, but yes. 6 repeated offenders. Kane leaned back in his chair. So the system does not work. You slap their wrists, they go home, lick their wounds, and try again when they think they can get away with it. How is that justice? It is the law, I said, though I was starting to sound defensive even to myself. The law, Kane said quietly, is supposed to protect people, not make them easier targets. If someone tries to kill you and fails and all you do is give them a stern talking to, guess what happens next? They try harder, I admitted. Exactly, he stood up. So here is what we are going to do. You are going to arrange a meeting between me and Ambassador Thex. Private. Unofficial. Off the record. Why would I do that? Because you are tired of watching people get away with attempted mass murder. Because you know the Council's way is not working. And because deep down you want to see what happens when someone finally pushes back. He was right. All of it. I hated that he was right. If I do this, I said slowly, and something goes wrong, it is my career. Possibly my life. Nothing will go wrong, Kane promised. I am just going to have a conversation. A very frank, very honest conversation about expectations and consequences. That is what worries me. He smiled. Trust me, Vex. I am a professional. I arranged the meeting for the next evening in one of the neutral conference rooms. Small, soundproof, no cameras as per diplomatic privacy protocols. Just Kane, Thex, and me standing outside the door trying not to imagine all the ways this could go horribly wrong. Trill was with me. She had insisted on being there, claiming that if I was going to do something stupid, she should at least be a witness. This is a bad idea, she muttered, all 4 arms crossed. Probably, I agreed. Kane is going to kill him. Maybe. And we are just going to let it happen. No, I said. We are going to stand here and make sure nobody interrupts whatever conversation they are having. Big difference. She gave me a look that suggested the difference was not actually that big. Inside the room, we had placed a small audio transmitter. Not recording, just real-time monitoring, so we could intervene if things went too far. That was my excuse anyway. Really, I just wanted to hear what Kane said. Thex arrived exactly on time. He was a Helian, which meant he looked vaguely reptilian, stood about 5 feet tall, and had enough arrogance for someone 3 times his size. He wore expensive robes covered in status symbols and carried himself like he owned the station. This is highly irregular, he hissed at me. I demand to know what this human wants. He wants to talk, I said. Go inside. He is waiting. Thex hesitated, then walked into the conference room. The door closed behind him. Trill and I activated the audio feed. Ambassador Thex, Kane's voice came through, polite and professional. Thank you for meeting with me. I did not have much choice, Thex replied. His voice had that particular nasal quality that made everything sound condescending. Your pet security officer made it clear this was not optional. Let me be direct, Kane said, ignoring the insult. You hired pirates to attack this station. You endangered hundreds of lives. You killed 18 people, even if they were criminals you hired. And your punishment is going to be expulsion and some fines. I have been advised not to discuss any alleged involvement in recent events, Thex said smugly. I did not ask you to confirm or deny anything, Kane said. I am simply stating facts. Now, here is another fact. If you ever threaten this station, or any human, or any council member again, I will kill you. Silence. Long, heavy silence. Then Thex laughed. You cannot threaten me, human. I have diplomatic immunity. I have protection. I have resources you cannot imagine. You are nothing. A representative of a species barely out of its own solar system. You have no power here. You are right, Kane said calmly. I have no official power, no authority, no legal recourse. But I do not need any of that. Do you know what I did before I became a diplomat, Thex? I do not care. I eliminated problems. That was my job for 20 years. I found people who thought they were untouchable, people who thought their money or power or connections made them safe, and I proved them wrong. I was very good at it. Is that supposed to frighten me? Thex's voice was less smug now, slightly less. It is supposed to inform you, Kane replied. Here is how this works. You are going to leave this station. You are going to go back to the Helian Syndicate. You are going to accept your sanctions and your expulsion. And you are never, ever going to threaten this council or anyone under its protection again. And if I refuse, then at some point in some place you think is safe, you are going to have an accident. Maybe your ship will have a malfunction. Maybe you will eat something that disagrees with you. Maybe you will just disappear. It will look natural. It will look random. And nobody will ever prove otherwise. You cannot do that, Thex said, but his voice shook slightly. The council will know. They will investigate. They will try, Kane agreed. And they will find nothing. Because I am very good at my job, Thex. Both my jobs, diplomat and problem solver. Right now, I am being a diplomat and giving you a choice. Walk away. Live your life. Find a new career path that does not involve mass murder, or keep pushing. Keep plotting. Keep thinking you are smarter than everyone else. Another pause. What happens if I choose the second option? Thex asked. Then I stop being a diplomat, Kane said simply. And you become a problem I need to solve. Your choice. Choose wisely. The door opened. Thex walked out, scales pale, eyes wide. He did not look at me or Trill. He just walked down the corridor as fast as his short legs would carry him. Kane emerged a moment later, straightening his tie. Well, he said cheerfully, that went well. Anyone hungry? I hear the commissary has that Thalaxian stew today. Trill and I just stared at him. What? He asked innocently. I am starving. Combat negotiations always give me an appetite. 2 days later, Ambassador Thex formally withdrew from council politics, citing health concerns. The Helian Syndicate issued a public apology, paid substantial reparations, and implemented new oversight on their trade operations. It was the fastest resolution to a council scandal in recorded history. Mordax, the Vorn ambassador, invited Kane to a private dinner to celebrate. I was invited too, as Kane's security liaison. Really, I think Mordax just wanted to talk to Kane without the usual diplomatic filters. The dinner was surprisingly pleasant. Mordax told war stories. Kane told war stories. They drank something that would have killed me and laughed about various creative ways they had seen enemies defeated. It was like watching two apex predators bond over shared hobbies. You know, Mordax said, pouring another round of Vorn battle spirits, when you first arrived, I thought humanity was weak, soft. Prey species playing at being predators. And now? Kane asked. Now I think humanity is terrifying, Mordax said bluntly. You hide it well. The diplomatic smiles, the peaceful gestures, the talk of cooperation. But underneath, you are hunters. Patient ones. The most dangerous kind. Kane raised his glass. I will take that as a compliment. It is, Mordax assured him. The Vorn respect strength. Your species has it. Not in numbers or technology yet, but here. He tapped his chest. In the willingness to do what must be done. Need to make hard choices. To survive. They drank. I sipped water and tried not to think about the philosophical implications of two warriors from different species finding common ground over shared violence. Tell me, Mordax said after a moment, your government. They knew what they were doing when they sent you, yes? This was intentional? Kane nodded. Humanity has been watching the Council for 3 years, learning how it works, who has power and who has influence, who respects strength and who respects weakness. We needed to establish ourselves not as newcomers begging for acceptance, but as equals who could handle ourselves. So they sent a weapon disguised as a diplomat, Mordax said. They sent a diplomat who could also be a weapon if necessary, Kane corrected. There is a difference. I genuinely want peace. I genuinely believe cooperation is better than conflict. But I also know that peace only works if everyone understands the alternative. Speak softly and carry a big stick, I quoted. It was an old human saying I had learned recently. Kane smiled. Exactly. Except in this case, I am the stick. Mordax laughed, a deep, rumbling sound. I like this human, he announced. Humanity can stay. Anyone who disagrees can discuss it with me. Coming from a Vorn ambassador, that was essentially a declaration of alliance. Kane had done in 2 weeks what most species took decades to accomplish. He had earned respect, established credibility, and completely changed the Council's perception of humanity, all while technically never breaking any rules. Bending them maybe, stretching them to their absolute limits, but not breaking them. The man was either brilliant or insane. Possibly both. The next few weeks settled into a routine. Kane attended council sessions, negotiated trade agreements, made speeches about cooperation and mutual benefit. He was charming, professional, and completely non-threatening. Everyone who had seen the security footage from the pirate attack knew better. But nobody talked about it. It was like an unspoken agreement. We would all pretend Kane was just a diplomat. And in return, he would pretend he was not the most dangerous person on the station. Then the Vorten situation happened. The Vortens were a small species from the frontier. Peaceful, agrarian, completely non-threatening. They had joined the Council 5 years ago and mostly kept to themselves. They had one resource everyone wanted, though: Kyberium ore. Rare, valuable, essential for faster-than-light drives. 3 larger species had territorial claims on Vorten space: the Creole Dominion, the Palaxian Empire, and the Genthor Collective. All 3 wanted the Kyberium. All 3 were willing to go to war for it. The Vortens, caught in the middle, appealed to the Council for protection. The Council debated, and debated, and debated some more. Nobody wanted to anger 3 major military powers. Nobody wanted to risk war. So they did what politicians always do when faced with hard decisions. They formed a committee to study the issue. The Vortens would be conquered and enslaved while the committee wrote reports. Kane listened to this for exactly 1 session. Then he stood up. With respect to the Council, he said, voice carrying across the chamber, this is cowardice. The room went silent. You did not call the Council cowards. It simply was not done. The Vortens came to us for help, Kane continued. They are members of this body. We have an obligation to protect them, not study them, not debate endlessly while they suffer. Protect them. The situation is complex, Arbiter Jex said stiffly. Jex was a Palian, which meant he had tentacles instead of arms and a deep love of bureaucracy. We cannot simply involve ourselves in every territorial dispute. This is not a territorial dispute, Kane shot back. This is three bullies trying to steal from someone smaller and weaker. If we do not stop this, if we just watch it happen, then what is the point of this council? Why does it exist if not to protect its members? We must consider the broader implications. Another delegate said, military action could destabilize the entire sector. You know what else destabilizes sectors? Kane asked. Letting aggressive powers conquer peaceful ones without consequences. That sends a message that might makes right, that the council is useless, that treaties and memberships mean nothing. He looked around the chamber, making eye contact with as many delegates as possible. Humanity is new here. We are still learning your ways, your customs, your politics. But we know one thing very well. We know what happens when good people stand by and do nothing while evil flourishes. We have made that mistake many times throughout our history, and we have learned painfully that there comes a time when you must stand up, when you must fight, when you must put yourself between the victims and the aggressors. And what would you have us do? Mordax asked from his seat. He was not challenging Kane. He genuinely wanted to know. Form a protection fleet, Kane said. A council ships, council authority. Place them in Vorten space. Make it clear that an attack on the Vortens is an attack on all of us. Force the Creel, the Palaxians, and the Genthors to back down or face the combined might of the council. That could start a war, Arbiter Jex pointed out. Or prevent one, Kane countered. Bullies usually back down when you stand up to them. But you have to actually stand up. You cannot just talk about it. The debate continued for hours. But something had shifted. Kane had put the moral weight of the issue on the table, forced everyone to confront it directly. By the end of the session, the council had voted to send a protection fleet to Vorten space. It was not unanimous, but it passed. Afterward, I found Kane in his quarters. He was reviewing reports, probably planning his next diplomatic move. That was risky, I said. You made enemies today. I made the right choice, he replied without looking up. That is more important than making friends. The Creel ambassadors specifically called humanity warmongers after the vote, said we were corrupting the council's peaceful values. Kane finally looked at me. The Creel have conquered 6 species in the past century. They have no room to talk about peaceful values. Fair point, I admitted. But you should know, there is talk. Some delegates are saying humanity is too aggressive, too willing to resort to force, that we should limit your involvement in council decisions. Let them talk, Kane said. Words are cheap. Actions matter. We saved the Vortens. That is what matters. He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars beyond the station. You know what I think, Vex? I think the council has been playing its civilization for so long, they have forgotten what it actually costs. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the active prevention of it. Sometimes that means standing up. Sometimes that means making threats. And yes, sometimes that means fighting. So humanity is here to teach us how to fight, I asked. No, Kane said. Humanity is here to remind you why you should avoid it. We know what war looks like, what it costs, what it takes from you. We have scars that go back millennia. We do not want you to have those same scars. But if the only way to prevent greater evil is to commit to lesser violence, then yes, we will do that. Every time. Over the next 3 months, the protection fleet held position in Vorten space. The Creel threatened. The Palaxians postured. The Genthors made angry speeches, but none of them attacked, because they knew deep down that the council meant it this time. And they knew that humanity, specifically Marcus Kane, had changed the calculation. The humans were not going to politely debate while people died. They were going to act. It was a new era for the council. A more active one. A more dangerous one, maybe, but also a more honest one. Kane continued his work. More trade agreements, more negotiations, more peaceful resolutions to conflicts. but always with that underlying presence. That knowledge that if diplomacy failed, humanity could and would do what was necessary. He became something of a legend. The diplomat who stopped a pirate attack single-handedly. The negotiator who stared down a foreign war ambassador. The representative who forced the council to protect its own members. Other species started copying the human model, sending diplomats with military backgrounds, people who understood both negotiation and force. The council's security protocols improved dramatically. Response times got faster. Consequences for aggression became more severe. Humanity had changed the game, not through conquest or domination, but through example. By showing that you could be both civilized and strong, both diplomatic and dangerous, both peaceful and prepared. 6 months after Kane arrived, I was promoted to Chief of Council Security. Trill became my deputy. Our first order of business was implementing new training protocols based on human military doctrine. Ironic, really. Learning how to fight better so we would have to fight less. Kane attended my promotion ceremony, shook my hand, congratulated me, told me I had earned it. You know, I said, when you first arrived, I thought you were just another diplomat. Boring, predictable, easy to protect. And now? He asked, smiling. Now I know you are the most dangerous person I have ever met, I said honestly. And I am glad you are on our side. I am on everyone's side, Vex. That is the point. Humanity does not want to dominate the council. We want to be part of it. Partners, equals. But we also want to make sure it actually works, and that it actually protects people, that it means something. Mission accomplished, I said. You terrified half the council and inspired the other half. Not bad for 6 months' work. He laughed. My work here is just beginning. Earth is sending more representatives, trade negotiators, cultural ambassadors, teachers, scientists. We are in this for the long term. More humans like you, I asked, slightly worried. No, Kane said. Just one of me is plenty. The others will be normal diplomats. The kind who actually enjoy endless committee meetings and formal dinners. I am the opening act, the message. Now that everyone understands what humanity is capable of, we can focus on what we prefer: cooperation, growth, building something better. The velvet glove over the iron fist, I said. Something like that, he agreed. Though I prefer to think of it as being prepared for the worst while working toward the best. That night, there was a celebration in the station's main hall. Every delegation attended. Music played. Food was served. People mingled and talked and pretended they had not been on the edge of various disasters for the past 6 months. I watched Kane work the room. He moved from group to group, shaking hands, sharing jokes, making connections. He looked completely harmless. Just another diplomat at another reception. But I knew better now. Everyone did. That harmless-looking human in the gray suit was a weapon. A very carefully designed, very precisely deployed weapon. Not meant to destroy, but to demonstrate, to warn, to educate. And it had worked perfectly. What are you thinking? Trill asked, joining me at the observation rail. I am thinking, I said slowly, that first contact with humanity could have gone very differently. If they had sent warriors instead of diplomats. If they had demanded instead of negotiated. If they had shown us their strength before showing us their willingness to cooperate. But they did not, Trill said. No, I agreed. They sent Marcus Kane, someone who could do both, someone who could fight when necessary but preferred to talk, someone who represented both what humanity is and what they want to be. Do you think it will last? She asked. This new relationship between humans and the council? I watched Kane laugh at something Mordax said, watched him clink glasses with a Mentorian trade minister, watched him navigate the complex social dynamics of a dozen different species with the same skill he had used to navigate combat. Yes, I said finally, I think it will last. Because humanity taught us something important, that peace is not weakness. That cooperation does not mean helplessness, but that we can be both civilized and strong, both diplomatic and dangerous. That humans are not to be underestimated, Trill added. That too, I agreed. Definitely that too. Marcus Kane stayed on Council Station for 2 more years. In that time, he negotiated 17 major trade agreements, prevented 4 potential wars, and personally stopped 2 more terrorist attacks. He never asked for recognition, never sought glory, just did his job with quiet competence and occasional extreme violence. But when he finally left to return to Earth, promoted to humanity's Minister of Interstellar Relations, half the Council came to see him off, including me. "Take care of yourself, X," he said, shaking my hand one last time. "Keep the station safe." "That would be easier if you stayed," I said. "Your replacement better be good." "She is," Kane promised. "Ambassador Liu, brilliant negotiator, former intelligence operative, speaks 11 languages. You will like her." "Another human weapon disguised as a diplomat?" I asked. They asked. Kane smiled that enigmatic smile. "Every human is a potential weapon, Vex. We all carry 10,000 years of survival instinct in our genes. But we are also artists and scientists and philosophers. We are farmers and teachers and explorers. We contain multitudes. That is from something, is it not?" A quote. Walt Whitman, human poet, 19th century. He picked up his bag. "Remember what I taught you. Hope for peace. Prepare for war. And never, ever underestimate someone just because they smile." He walked toward his ship, then paused and looked back. "Oh, and Vex. Tell Mordax I said he still owes me that rematch. I know he let me win the last sparring session." Then he was gone. Just another human returning home after a diplomatic assignment. Nothing special. Nothing unusual. Certainly not the most significant thing to happen to the Galactic Council in 100 years. Except he was. And everyone knew it. They thought he was a diplomat. And he was, just not only a diplomat, he was also the weapon they did not see coming, and the message humanity wanted to send, the example they wanted to set. And the galaxy would never be quite the same because of it. I went back to my office that evening and found a package on my desk. Inside was a bottle of something called whiskey, a human drink, and a note in Kane's handwriting. "For the next crisis. You will need it. Stay strong. Stay smart. Stay alive. Your friend Marcus." I opened the bottle and poured a small glass. Took a sip. It burned going down but warmed everything afterward. Just like humanity itself. A little painful at first, but ultimately exactly what we needed. The galaxy had thought humans would be easy, harmless. Just another species trying to find their place among the stars. They were wrong. Humanity was not easy. They were not harmless, but they were not conquerors either. They were survivors. And they had spent their entire existence learning one critical lesson. That the best way to survive was to make sure everyone around you survived too. That cooperation was not weakness but strength. That protecting others protected yourself. Marcus Kane had taught us that lesson, not through speeches or philosophy, but through action, through being exactly what we needed when we needed it. A diplomat and a warrior. A negotiator and a fighter. A friend and a warning. The weapon we did not see coming had become the ally we did not know we needed. And somehow, against all odds, it had worked. I raised my glass to the stars beyond my window. Peace to humanity. To Marcus Kane. To the strange new future we were all building together. "Welcome to the galaxy, humans," I said quietly. "We are glad you are here. Terrified. But glad." Somewhere out there, heading back to Earth, I knew Kane was smiling. Mission accomplished. Message delivered. Humanity had arrived, and the Council would never forget it.